first ever virtual open house today. We can't appreciate you more by having you join us in this unique time and to learn a little bit more about Make-A-Wish Alaska and Washington, or if you're a longtime supporter, volunteer, just to get a deeper picture into what we do. Before I introduce our panelists and kind of get going today, I wanted to introduce myself for those of you who I don't know. I'm Melissa Arias, as President and CEO of Make-A-Wish Alaska and Washington. And I have a few housekeeping items for you. First, we're going to be recording today's panel interview so that for folks who aren't able to attend at this time, they can watch it later. So just know that this is being recorded. You can have your camera off. Don't feel like you have to be on film. We're also encouraging people to consider using the speaker's view. If you're familiar with Zoom, up in the right-hand corner, you have some options, and one of them is to pick speaker's view. Then you're not looking at all the boxes, but you're just looking at those people who are talking today. So it might make it a little bit more interesting for you. And then last but not least, I know Sophie just muted everyone, but please keep yourself muted while we're going through the panel. And Sophie's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have comments or questions, feel free to put those in ongoing in the chat, and we'll have some time for question and answer at the end. So we will get to those at the end of our conversation. We hope that this takes about 45 minutes. We'll try to stay right on track and be cognizant of everybody's valuable time. But I'm going to start off today by introducing our panelists and having them each say hello and wave. First, many of you know the famous Trina Cottingham, our Vice President of Wishes. Trina is our longest tenured staff member, having worked at Make-A-Wish since she was in like 4th grade, I believe, 21 years ago. And we're very, very fortunate to have Trina's expertise here at our local chapter. Not only does she support us here, but she also is a big part of policy and decision-making and conversations at the national level as well. We're also very excited to have Dr. Ross Goshorn, who's a pediatric oncologist from Sacred Heart Hospital. Thank you for being here, Dr. Goshorn.
Hi guys, happy Thursday.
He's also a member of our medical advisory panel, an important role for us here in the office to help us navigate some of the complications and unique situations that come up every day. And last but not least, I want to introduce you to Nari Weaver. Say hello, Nari. I know she's
Hi, how are you?
There's Nari. Nari has been a wish granting volunteer since 2015, and I believe she's working either on or towards about her 60th wish, which is pretty incredible. So thank you so much, Nari, for being here today. So the format of our chat, I'm going to do a little bit of opening remarks like I'm doing now, and then we're going to turn it over to some organized or kind of decided panel questions, and then open it up at the end for folks to ask their questions that aren't maybe covered early on. So I'm going to start off today by kind of setting the mood for you all. For those of you who don't know, we are celebrating our 35th anniversary here at Make-A-Wish. The very first wish granted that we kind of consider Make-A-Wish's like impetus for existence happened over 40 years ago, and it was for a little boy named Chris who wanted to be a state patrolman. And Chris kind of got the community came out for him. He had this amazing wish. It was very well documented and detailed. You can read about it, watch videos. There's been movies made about it. But because of that wish, the community conversation completely changed about, is there a place in our community to support children facing critical illnesses? And that conversation bubbled across the nation and eventually landed with our founder, Bob Cleveland, in Tacoma, Washington, where he said, this is really something I want to bring to our community. He found 2 colleagues to help him, Penny Maples and Greg Wong, and together the 3 of them founded our chapter in 1986, right here in Tacoma. And I know Deanna is on this call, but I think it was in their spare bedroom. And in that first year, they granted the first 6 wishes that ever happened here in the Northwest. And the very first wish was for a little girl who wanted to fly above the clouds and meet Mickey Mouse, which has stayed one of our most popular wishes ever since that founding first wish here of our chapter. And since that time, we have served over 7,500 children and their families across Washington State, Alaska, and even at times Idaho and Montana in our history. And so we're very, very, very blessed to have the opportunity to do this great work right in our region and bring the opportunity of a wish to children here in our community. So I think I'm ready to move to our first set of questions. And I'm going to turn the first question to Dr. Goshorn. Will you tell us a little bit about how a child qualifies for a wish?
Sure. So first we have to determine if the patient or the child is eligible for the wish. And that initial referral can come from typically the medical team, and it doesn't have to be the physician. It can be a child life specialist or one of our social workers, any of the guardians or family members that know what's going on in the kid's medical course, and that initiates the contact from the family or the care team to make a wish. And then the group of Make-A-Wish is determined to determine if the child is eligible for a wish. And so things that we take into consideration is there's other groups helping 45-year-olds. So we target our toddlers 2.5 years old up to age 18 to put kind of a bookend on the age to make sure that all of our efforts are hitting kind of our pediatric population. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity for a wish. So if there's another wish granting organization that's already working with the family or the kid, that would be something that we would take into consideration. And then I think what most people think of Make-A-Wish the role of Make-A-Wish is in children that have terminal illnesses, but that's not true. So fortunately for myself and my patients, the vast majority of the patients I take care of that are diagnosed with cancer and life-threatening illnesses will survive and go on, 70 to 75% of them. So the child doesn't have to have, dying of cancer in the last stages. In fact, they just need to have a life-threatening illness that's determined by the medical team and the Make-A-Wish team that's progressive or getting worse. And it doesn't have to be a cancer. Which I think is really important for people to understand. I think that there's this strong correlation of a bald kid with cancer getting chemotherapy, they may be passing away that gets a wish. But I think we do so much more than just that. Of course, that's involved, but there's a lot of other stuff as well.
Yes, thank you. And that is true. And a high percentage of the children that we serve are cancer patients, but we run the gamut of children that have a variety of different conditions that they're facing at this time, and a wish brings them some joy. So Trina, can you share with us a little bit about the types of wishes that Make-A-Wish grants and maybe highlight a few that we've granted recently?
Yeah, generally speaking, excuse me, I have a little bit of a frog in my throat. Generally speaking, wishes fall into 5 categories. I wish to go, I wish to have, I wish to meet, I wish to be, or I wish to give. And all of those wishes are so fun and unique and really reflect the desires of the child, because that's a big part of what Make-A-Wish does, is that we take a time when a child has, and a family has no power. They have to go through the medical treatments, and getting the opportunity to make a wish gives that child something that they can express and they can control. And it's just really fun to see what kids come up with. And just this month we're granting, hopefully we're on target to grant about 30 wishes this month. I'm pretty excited about. And we have wishes for a play system. We granted a wish earlier this month for Giancarlo. I think many of you saw his photos in the invite, and it was pretty cute because in true Northwest fashion, it was pouring down rain in the Bellingham area on the day of his play system install, but he insisted on helping. So he was out with his little mask on and his rain gear on and helping to get that play system installed. We also this month, excuse me, are granting a wish for a young woman named Kelsey to have a home gym, because she's really excited to get back to her health after she's done with her cancer treatments. And that's happening pretty soon. She's getting a Peloton and a stair stepper and all kinds of fun stuff for her home gym. We're doing some online shopping sprees. We have a virtual celebrity wish happening. So there's a lot of really great wishes continuing to happen right now.
I know that we are all facing, as individuals in our communities, the effects of COVID-19, and clearly Make-A-Wish is not, hasn't escaped that. So Trina, can you talk a little bit about how that has impacted or changed how we're granting wishes right now?
That's a great question. Obviously, right now, well, maybe not so obviously, travel is something that we are not offering to our wish families. There's so much involved in getting out and getting on planes and being in the public. And before COVID, about 80% of our kids wished for travel wishes. And that's something that we're not able to do right now. We do have children who are choosing to wait for travel, and that's something that we are letting them do. But what we are seeing is that a lot of kids are wishing for something that will bring them joy right now, something that will help them, especially at a time when they need it even more. People are at home. We're seeing kids wish for puppies and play systems and playhouses. We have a young woman who's wishing for a writer's studio. So it's not a playhouse, it's a writer's studio in her backyard so that she can have space away from her family to do her journaling and her writing and really just have a space of her own. So it's really been fun to see. I mean, and as Melissa said, I've been at Make-A-Wish for 21 years since I was in the 4th grade. Thank you. And it's so fun to see the creativity of kids just all the time, but even more so now, we're just seeing some really fun wish ideas that are even new to us, and that creates a great challenge for us. We are doing our best to get those done, but of course we're also competing with everyone else for low inventory, and puppies are on back order because everybody wants a COVID puppy. So we're having a great time doing wishes, and our volunteers are just really stepping up, but it definitely has changed things for us.
Thank you. How about Dr. Goshorn, could you maybe talk to us a little bit? You get one of the most exciting parts of this job, which is the initial announcement to the child that you're going to get the opportunity to get a wish. Can you tell us a little bit about what that's been like in your experience, and maybe a story or so of something that you've seen?
Sure, absolutely. So when I meet a new family and a new patient, there's often kind of this sense of chaos as they've come through an emergency room, and oftentimes lots of scans, and they're entering into this new medical world, which is a world in which I live, and it feels very comfortable to me. But I have to remember that the rest of the world is living not in a hospital. And when they are kind of thrust into the pediatric oncology world, it's almost like travelers arriving in a foreign country, and they have no idea about the cultures or the custom or even the language. And it's a very scary time for families. We try and make it not scary for the kids, but the parents, their most prized joy and possession and their child, their life is being threatened. So my goal is to get the child diagnosed and start treatment safely for our cancer kids, and get through the first couple of days. And then after those first couple of days, my favorite thing to do is, like, we've got a safe plan in place. Let's talk about something that we can plan together and think about, and that is, you get a wish. And the parents and the kids are like, what? And sometimes I've had it happen where I say, well, you do a Make-A-Wish now. You get to Make-A-Wish. And for some people, they think, holy cow, that means I'm dying. And parents look at me like, oh my gosh, this is how you're telling us that our child is dying. And I have to back up and say, no. Any kid that has cancer or a life-threatening illness is eligible to have a wish. And so I have to be very careful how I approach this. Like, hey, we have a plan in place. Hopefully everything's going to be okay. Because I've made that mistake more than once, where people think that I'm telling them that their child is terminal. But either way, so then, after we've had this really rocky start and lots of emotions, appropriately so, I move into, hey, let's start thinking about what you can look forward to. We have this chunk of time we've got to get through, but once we're through that, you need to start putting together whatever crazy dream or wish that you think that you want. And sometimes I help them think about that. I had one young man who's like, I want to go to Dubai. I'm like, I don't know if we can do that, but let's find out. and many of my patients, it becomes something that they're working towards. And in a time prior to COVID where everything was taken away from them, oftentimes they're out of school. They can't be in huge social gatherings because of regular viruses. And so much of their life has changed. Their day-to-day life is completely different. And to give them something to look forward to and to count down to. So prior to COVID, a lot of this was for a Disney experience or a cruise or something like that. I cannot tell you how many times that is what got kids through some rough patches, because they knew in a couple of months they're going to be feeling better and they'd be able to go do whatever. And it not only fortifies the child, it fortifies the parents and it fortifies the care team, because it instills, I don't know, that little extra boost of resiliency that I can get over this next hump because there's a reward on the other side. So I love it. It's like the best part of beginning to meet a family and get through it. And then as we work towards the wish, and when they come back from the wish, we get to talk about it and get to see pictures. It's just, I don't know, it's just the best, you guys.
That's awesome. And I love the way that you kind of framed that. Like, as doors are closing sometimes for these kiddos because they aren't able to go to school or do something, the hope and the opportunity that presents itself as that forward looking thing for them to hold on to through these difficult times. That's really great. So Nari, I'm sorry, volunteers are crucial to us. And so what possessed you to take on this role and to grant all of these wishes, and what has that experience been like for you?
Well, my journey started, it's kind of weird. I had postpartum depression with my first child, and I refused to take medication. So I went to this awesome therapist that he changes the mindset of do something instead of sitting and feeling sad about it. So he said, there's a lot of charity things that you can just go ahead and sign up. Why don't you just pick? And I'm like, okay, well, I'll try and see if there's something that will catch my eye, which I never did. But I used to work for a Latina agency, and they were doing this how do you call it, research of how many Latinos they were volunteering for Make-A-Wish, and they needed volunteers that would speak Spanish, that would do that. And I'm like, okay, well, this must be a sign. And I was like very skeptical about it. I'm like, sure, I'll sign up. And then my coworkers, they were like, you need to have a stomach for it. I'm like, I have a stomach for everything. Don't you dare say that I do not have a stomach for this. So I went ahead, I signed up. It was funny because I would never, ever do anything to elevate my credit score, right? I would just do everything towards my husband. And when I see that, well, we're going to check your credit score, I'm like, oh, shoot. I told my husband, I need to elevate my credit score, so we're going to get a car. And he's like, okay, then. Let's get you a car. So yeah, I mean, I worked all my way to do all the steps, and I'm like, well, now I'm committed. So I got in and I did my first wish, which it was so humble. He just wanted an iPad. And it made me feel how grateful I am and how grateful my kids are, and having stuff that a lot of kids just don't have. And he just wanted just a simple iPad. And the wish went by so fast. I got it like in my first month, and I'm like, I need to get going. If I can get this done, like how many more kids I can help and I can contribute it, myself, and giving joy to these kids. And I just kept on going. So that's my story.
So what kind of things do you get to talk about with the Wish kiddos? When you first show up on their doorstep, Dr. Goshorn has told his patients they're going to get to meet someone like you. And how does that initial conversation start?
So it's funny because I can relate with Dr. David. when sometimes I call the families, right? They're like, the social worker says that my child is not going to die, but I like, you can tell me if this is, if this is happening or not. And I'm like, I'm not authorized to say anything, but no, not necessarily. And and I have to like change all the mindset and whatever. And I'm like, you know what? This is about the kid. Let's just make this kid all happy, and let's just give the kid whatever he wants. And he's like, okay, well, fine. Of course, things that are feasible, right? Not that he wants a new house. so yeah, when initially we meet the families, it's just like a big smile from here to here, and giving that normal lifestyle to a kid that a kid usually does not receive, because or we have to separate that person from germs, right? Or sometimes like visibly the child looks at he has a condition. So like some parents, they get scared and they don't even want to show that kid because, oh, it's labeled and you're treating him special because it's noticeable that that child has something, right? So when volunteers go and they see that we're treating these kids completely normal as if they never had anything, it gives that child like that boost, like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm going to get this wish. Yes, they're treating me normal. Yes, I do not have a sickness that's stopping me from doing this, So it's that. And, you get addicted to that. I'm on a blacklist sometimes. Julia's like, you can't do more wishes. But it's that joy that that you see on those children, that you just want to spread that joy to everyone. And it's that. And every time you visit the child, they're like, this is the chick that sees me like a normal person. Oh my God, do it, and you always keep that child excited and boosting up their energy. And if you find a volunteer that's on your same page, it's like, it's even better.
Oh my gosh. Well, your energy is infectious. So I can just imagine how much fun the kids have with you. Can you talk a little bit maybe about a recent wish? As Trina shared, the wishes that we're able to do now are a little bit different and they're looking a little different. Maybe a recent wish that you have got to plan with a child that's unique because of the impacts of COVID.
Yeah, so we had a child that he wanted to go to Japan, and he wanted to go to the Pokemon convention, right? But sadly, with COVID happening, he decided to do a shopping spree. And the people in Best Buy, since they knew that he was a Pokemon freak, they bought him and gave him a lot of Pokemon stuff. And they got him a Switch, and with all the Pokemon games, he was so stoked. And he's a fan of Back to the Future. So we found a car of Back to the Future that would be parking right in front of Best Buy. And I think he did not care about the shopping spree. He was all about the car. Once he saw that car, he was like, oh my God, the car. And it doesn't matter. It was freezing that day. It was like 35 degrees. And his adrenaline was just so high that he even forgot his sweater inside the store, because all he was doing was just like taking pictures about the car. And it was all about the car and 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 the car. And yeah, he really made his wish. And it was his birthday that day, so it made it even more special. I could relate with this child because he has autism and my child has autism. So, it was a joy to see how autism kids grow and they can be completely functional. So it was a good opening for me myself, right? And seeing how generous he is and how he is, thinking about all his family's well-being, right? Like, oh, is my grandma sitting down? Can we grab some cookies for my grandma or stuff like that? It's super nice. And he came out with all the stuff that he wanted, and he's so happy. And
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And I think that, one of the things that I think I hear you saying, the underlining comments in what you're saying is that you get so much joy personally out of watching these Wish kids go through this experience and how valuable that is to you. And I think it just reminds us who is touched by a wish. So on that vein, Dr. Goshorn, you kind of alluded to this, but I'm going to maybe ask you to go a little deeper. Can you talk a little bit about how the wish also impacts the family and the benefits that maybe you've personally seen from a family who's really needed this at this time, not only just the child?
Oh, for sure. So unlike adults, the pediatric life-threatening disease experience is for the whole family, unfortunately. And so if you're a baby, it's essentially mom and dad, and even the youngest kids, mom and dad are in charge of everything, and the patient, the young child, shows up and has their treatments, what have you, and they they don't really have a sense of what's going on, but mom and dad are acutely aware. And then as we move into adolescence and young adulthood, the teenagers are completely aware of what's going on and what it means. And so no one patient goes through any of this alone, and most of the time it's a parent or a grandparent or both that are shouldering the burden that it is to go through a life-threatening illness with your child or your grandchild. And so as the child is moving through this process of treatment and looking at a wish and coming up with an idea, oftentimes it's a family decision. And there's one family in particular that comes to mind for me. And this was a young lady. She was maybe 13 or 14, and she wanted to go to Hawaii. And her family was quite large. They had I think 10 children total, and that a family that big, it's very uncommon for them to be able to all get on a plane and go to Hawaii. But when she was thinking about her wish and thinking about what would make her happy, I feel like what would make her whole family the happiest is what was going to make her the happiest. And so that wish was able to happen. I think it was about 3.5 years ago, and the entire family, I don't know how you guys did this, got them over to Hawaii. And I think there was at least a grandparent or two thrown in as well. But that was something that happened at the end of chemotherapy, and it was really something for everyone to look forward to. I remember talking about reef safe sunscreens months in advance, and everyone had been shopping and getting all of their stuff, and they ended up having an amazing trip. And I think the patient or the child, for the Make-A-Wish child, they enjoyed immensely more beyond what they personally would have enjoyed, seeing it being enjoyed 10 times over with all of their family members. So it really is not just for them, it's for the whole family. And that was an particularly large, amazing experience that you guys pulled off somehow. And again, these kids, whether it's during COVID or before COVID, their whole life schedule has been disrupted, and the center of their focus is now taking care of their disease and their symptoms. And to give them that sense of normalcy that Nari's talking about, that they are who they are and not their disease, right? They're an 8-year-old named Lily. They're a 12-year-old named Joe, and that's who they are. And they have this thing that they have to deal with that's taken over all of everyone's attention. But look at me as a kid, and help me look forward to something. And it's just the best. It's really great. And so many families have been kind of divided really over the course of the illnesses that these kids have, where one parent or grandparent is taking care of everyone else and one parent's taking care of the kid in the hospital. And oftentimes this is the first big opportunity to bring them all together again and to get reacquainted again and to reunite that nuclear family, which is so important.
Thank you. That's really, really wonderful. And so now, this is kind of an abstract question, but when you've thought about all of what you're able to give and what your team is able to give, do you feel that there's power behind a wish in actually helping the child get through the hurdles and stay true to their treatment programs?
Oh, absolutely. I think that there's this natural trajectory that happens with these life-threatening illnesses at the very beginning. When a child is diagnosed with a life-threatening condition, there's this tidal wave of support and this kind of I'm ready to fight sense that you get from everyone, the patient, the parents, and Facebook groups and wristbands and hats and t-shirts. And then so that first wave hits and there's all this support and everyone can do everything. And then as we get closer to the 6-month mark, things are falling away. And there's nothing bad about any of this. This is just how it happens. And people, they continue to support and love them, but the rest of life gets crazy, right, as well. And that big swell of support kind of dwindles away. And suddenly you don't feel all of that energy again. And oftentimes that is the exact moment in which the Make-A-Wish energy kicks in, because you're getting closer to the end of treatment for most of these kids, a lot of these kids, and it kind of picks up where that initial surge left off. So there is it's not even theoretical. There is totally power in having something to look forward to. There is totally power in all of these people on the screen who are filled with positive energy, pushing that energy towards that kid and that family to push them along the journey.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, that's kind of the essence of why we're here, because we want to give those kids that extra little oomph to get through whatever life throws at them. So that's really great to hear from you. So Trina, I have this pin on today, which some of you can see, this star pin. And on the back of this pin, it says, "Every wish needs a star like you." Can you tell us a little bit about who's involved in a wish, how many people touch a wish, and kind of what you've seen over the years with the community coming together?
Yeah, well, the core of that, the answer to that question is that Make-A-Wish 100% could not grant wishes for children without our community, period, hands down. We are so volunteer driven. We depend so heavily on our wonderful volunteers like Nari. I see other volunteers on the call like Ken and Joe, and probably people I can't see because I can't see everybody's pictures. And these are the people who are like the feet on the ground, and they are doing the work with our families and really doing all of the fun stuff. And we at the office are kind of doing that behind the scenes thing. So just from the very beginning, without our over 500 volunteers, and we need volunteers all the time. As Nari said, we need bilingual volunteers, we need Spanish speakers. She did allude to the fact that we do background checks on our families. It's not necessarily tied to your credit score, but it is an important part because we have to protect the children and families that we serve. Our donors, we could not do what we do without the donated dollars, and our job on the WISH team and our volunteers is to take those dollars and stretch them as far as we can by bringing in our wonderful in-kind partners. In normal times, over 60% of our wishes are through in-kind goods and services. So when we have a wish for a puppy and the breeder decides to discount it for us, or we have a wonderful sponsor who's going to pay for our electronics wishes, or we have our wonderful partner with Alaska Airlines during non-COVID times, and then all of our great donors who give us airline miles, which we are squirreling away and saving up until we can start booking travel wishes using all of those miles that will really help us, again, stretch those donated dollars that we cannot survive without. We have all kinds of donors. We have adult donors, corporate donors. We have kids who do something that's called Kids for Wish Kids, and we have a wonderful group of young philanthropists in Eastern Washington who do a lemonade stand every year. They even did it this year in COVID times with a very adapted version of their lemonade stand, and it's so overwhelming. The community support we get from our local sports teams, from our local companies, and it's very humbling. And one of the things I say a lot when people ask me about my favorite part of Make-A-Wish is that I sit in the very privileged position in my job where I get to see the good in people every day. A lot of times all we hear about is the negative and the bad, and I see people giving of themselves, their time, their treasure, their creativity for someone they don't know. Because when our volunteers sign up for Wishes, they don't know these families, they don't know these kids. When you're giving your dollars, it's going to someone that you may never meet. And there's just such beauty in that. And it's a really great place. And again, that's why I've stayed for 21 years. I love what we do, but I love the opportunity to get to see our amazing community really make magic happen.
Thank you. Yes, that's why I get to work with Trina, and we too, you know, from my position, that is the best part of the job, is to see the power of the community come together, and really in a hyper local situation. You know, you all see and know and hear about kiddos in your community who are feeling poorly or facing a difficult disease prognosis, and you don't really know how to help. Well, Make-A-Wish gives people, whether you donate a birthday cake, or you write a letter, or you help install that backyard playset, or you, I mean, there's just the opportunities go on and on and on, that it gives the community really a chance to tangibly invest in a child that they may not know, but they know is a critical part of their community. So I'm getting to the end of my prepared questions. So I want to remind all of you, we've had some of you send us some questions in advance, but if you do have anything for the Q&A, please put that in the chat for Sophie. And then this last question is for each of you. And I'm going to start with Nari. So Nari, can you tell us how being involved with Make-A-Wish has changed you?
Has changed me in many ways. It got rid of my depression, that's for sure. And the rest, it's again, it's a reminder of everything I have, and it's a reminder of empathy and how we can actually help each other, you know, support these people, these families that are hiding their children, right? And allow them to expose their children, because it's okay to have a child that has certain conditions. And us as society, we cannot be judgmental, okay? Or judging moms, judging dads. I've seen so many parents that cry and cry and cry and cry and cry. We end up being their emotional support too. And, you know, if we can all help each other, stick together, help these children just feel normal, we actually are helping parents get that jump and allowing their children to be completely normal. So that's how I feel. It has been a huge positive impact in my life. And, you know, I just want to give back all the joy that I get towards these people, because they deserve it. And I'm like a huge advocate for them. So
Thank you. So Dr. Goshorn, kind of the same question to you. How has watching Wishes and being part of this process impacted you?
So Make-A-Wish for me is a boost. It's for me personally. I think all of us wake up every day and wanting to do our best and working really hard to hopefully bring about a better place in this world that we're in. And when you're dealing with children with life-threatening illnesses full time, there are parts of you that are getting damaged and hurt, really, to be honest. And every day you have to hopefully end the day still feeling positive about everything. And sorry, I feel like I'm having a psychology session here, but thank you, therapist. But Make-A-Wish for me is a boost. It's a boost of positive. It's a boost of positive when I interact with the staff. It's a boost of positive when I get to tell the families. It's a boost of positive when I get to see the pictures after the kids have had their wish granted. And at the end of the day, we're sometimes the sum of our positive and our negatives. And I need every little piece of positive I can get. And so I really appreciate that extra love and authentic joy and positivity that being a part of this organization provides.
Well, you and Nari give us, and not speaking for Trina, but us the positivity to do our jobs too. It's so amazing for us to see, and there's so many wish granters on this call, but the power that that you collectively have and just how that energizes. And we drive through traffic and we do all the things we do because you're out there supporting children and doing this selflessly for nothing. You have a busy day job. Nari, you have a family that you take care of. Like, you guys give your extra time to us, and that's just so, so powerful and really helps us dig in when the going gets tough here in the Make-A-Wish office. So we just cannot thank you enough. So I'm going to take a quick moment to let you guys all know some ways that you can personally get involved. And then I'm going to turn it over to Sophie, who has been diligently monitoring the chat, so she can pose a few of your questions to the panelists. But for those of you who are not already deeply involved, like Ken Kiefer, who I can see on our screen here, and granting wishes and investing in us, we offer a whole variety of ways. You don't necessarily need to be a wish grantor. Maybe you know someone in your community who is experiencing a health condition and you want to refer them. We have a portal on our website and we take community and family referrals, and we work with the medical team for that child to ensure that the kiddo is ready for a wish. So please consider that as an option, or sharing it with your community, your church, your professional associations. This is an opportunity out there. We are looking for every child. Our vision is to ensure every child eligible for a wish gets one. During the holiday season, we're always looking for little ways to get involved with office parties and things. When people are looking for ways to get back to their community, we have what we call our toy room. It's the room that helps us round out all of those incredible wishes. Maybe a kiddo's wished for a puppy, and some folks in your office want to donate some puppy treats and some puppy things that we can include with the wish to make that wish just a little bit more special. Or particularly in this time, we're always looking for gift cards. So maybe you want to host a giving tree where you can ask your friends and family or your coworkers to consider maybe donating an item or a gift card to us. And then the last thing is that we're always looking to reconnect with our Wish alumni families and get our families involved. You know, we never want a family to feel indebted to us, but if they have a story to share, we'd love to share it, even if it was 10 years ago and they're still thinking about the positivity of that wish. Please connect them to us, have them join our Facebook groups. We have an alumni Facebook group and other ways that they can get involved. And now, with just a few minutes left, I'm going to turn it over to Sophie. So she's been monitoring the chat. Sophie, you have a couple of last questions for folks?
Yeah, there's some wonderful questions, and we won't be able to get to all of them today since our panelists were so amazing. And but we will follow up with you. So if you have questions that we don't get to, please know that we'll be in touch with an answer. So let's see, there's some great ones to choose from, but I'm going to, let's see. So actually, Melissa, I'm going to direct this one to you. How can students or children or younger folks help out with wishes? Is that possible? How does that work?
So we do have opportunities for kids to get involved with wishes, whether they can't be wish granting volunteers because we have some rules about the age of our wish granting volunteers, but Trina talked a little bit about Kids for Wish Kids, or kiddos that have done amazing things to bring awareness to Make-A-Wish, or maybe they have a kid in their school who's received a wish. So we have an opportunity for them to host fundraisers with their school to raise money to support a wish. Kids have done all kinds of things in Wenatchee. I love this every year. The East Wenatchee High School and Wenatchee High School duke it out in what they call the litter box, where the two cat mascots duke it out for superiority, and it raises awareness about Make-A-Wish, and it raises funds, and it's a great way for the high school students to get engaged and to see some of their value. So there's lots of different ways. We have ideas on our website, or you can email me directly. I'm sure Sophie will send out information on how to connect with us after this call, and I'd love to help you guys think through that if you ever have any ideas.
Great, thank you. We do have one question. So with travel wishes being on hold, Trina, this will probably be for you. How is that impacting the kids waiting? So something that, internally we might refer to as our pipeline. So talk to us a little bit about how that's impacting that for our kids.
That is a great question indeed. And the short answer is that our pipeline, our list of kids is growing, because we made the decision at our local chapter to allow kids to wait up to a year for travel to be possible, instead of forcing, I hate to use the word forcing, instead of asking them to choose a non-travel wish if what they truly, truly wanted was to travel somewhere. So because of that, we do have about 300 kids waiting for travel wishes right now. We have about 200 kids who haven't picked their wish yet. And we have about 75 wishes that fall into wishes that we can grant now during COVID. And of course, kids are changing their wishes all the time. And we're really leaving that decision up to the child. Like Nari talked about, her kid who had wished to go to Japan, and he decided to change his wish, which again is letting kids keep that power. We're not telling them they have to do it. They're choosing to do it. And there's a big distinction there. But that is making our wait list grow. And what that means is that we're going to have a lot of work to do, and we're going to really need our community with donated dollars and volunteer time to really catch up with that once we're able to grant those travel wishes again.
Great, thank you. I want to be mindful of time. Panelists, do you have time for one more question, or we do? Okay. Let's see. Let's see. There's so many great ones to choose from. So this one is, well, I'll put it out there, and then we can see who's the best fit for answering it. So as Dr. Goshorn mentioned, energy can sometimes dwindle after time passes. So what happens to the wish kids after the wish is granted? Do we keep in contact with them? Those kinds of things. So can our wish families get back involved with us? I think, Melissa, you just touched on that a little bit. So Trina, maybe you want to start with that one, and then maybe Nari or Dr. Goshorn could add anything.
We do have a great alumni program at Make-A-Wish, and we encourage our families to stay in touch with us and to participate ongoing. We have some wish families and wish kids who eventually decide to volunteer or raise money for us. It's very optional though, of course. It's those families who want that engagement and want to stay with us, and we provide that venue for them. And it can be as little as just getting our newsletter and emails. It can be as much as fundraising and volunteering, and there's all sorts of opportunities in between. So we definitely do have a vehicle for that.
Nari, how about you? Have you ever stayed in touch or ever heard from any of your wish kids after the wish?
You better believe it. Yes, I mean, it's not that I don't get emotionally linked with the family, but they just get so hype with my energy that they just text me just to see how I'm doing, and I can receive a random text like 3 years after, whatever, and they're like, hey, so happy birthday, I hope you remember who I am. And I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, yes, and they send text messages, videos and stuff. I think it's cute. I think it's adorable. And on the other side, my brother-in-law that he passed, he was a wish kid. Mm-hmm. And the ways that they were so grateful of what they did. what Make-A-Wish did, they donate money. They don't participate as volunteers because it's still like it's very hurtful for them. But they're so grateful that, you know, like they're on the newsletter. Every time they can donate, they donate. And every fundraising, you know, they're like, so you're going to the lunch thing? Okay, well, here's my money. Go, you go. I'm like, okay, fine. So yeah, it's great. Either
That is
way.
so wonderful. And I'm sure, Dr. Goshorn, you get to see kiddos when they come back from their wish trips, and I bet they want to tell you all about them.
Yeah,
after they-
yeah. My favorite is a young man. I guess he's a tween now, and he and his mom and grandma went to Hawaii on his Make-A-Wish trip, the three of them, and they stayed at a place that had dolphins, where you could have like the dolphin experience. And they had such a wonderful time that every year around the same time they go back. And it's really created this really nice memory for them. The first one, just to be clear, was with Make-A-Wish, and they're paying for the other ones. But in the interim, the grandma's passed away. And they continue to go back, and it's also a time to remember her as well. And this is a patient that I'll follow until he's 18, and now he's, you know, 12, 13. And I think for me, it's a natural part of longitudinal care. But for you guys, the folks on the call, that that one wish, it resonates with them for the rest of their life, really. And for this particular family, they're reliving it every year because it was such a good, positive experience. And now they've incorporated it in a way to kind of, hey, grandma loved doing this, so we're going to do it again as well. So it's pretty cool.
That is really powerful. And that is something that we hear. I've heard wishes described by parents as, it reminds me of my daughter's wedding day. Like they put that much emphasis on the experience itself decades after the wish has passed. And we, Sophie and I this year got to spend some time with a lot of our wish kids who are graduating from college and this unique year, and sending them notes and hearing back that, you know, when I was going through finals 10 years after my wish, it was the thing that helped me stay up that night and cram for that final, because I could think about this positive thing. So we know that these wishes do stick with people. Well, we've kept you guys all over time, and so we just want to thank you so very much for joining us today. You can continue to send those questions our way, and we'll try to get them answered for you and email you back some responses. But I just want to take one moment to really thank our panelists. Nari, thank you so much. Dr. Goshorn, and of course, Trina. We couldn't do our work without you in the office. So thank you all for being here. And thank each one of you, who I can't see all of you, but thank you for taking the time. This was our first try at a panel, and maybe we'll do it again if you guys enjoyed it. But we really, really appreciate you taking the time to learn a little bit more about our work and how you might get more involved. So thank you. We'll see you next time.
Everyone stay safe.
Yes, thank you.